Hey guys, it's Baba and I'm back with another tutorial thing, and this one is a redo of one that I did a few years ago that was, kind of bad, man. So we're going to have a look at some techniques for drawing faces at different angles, because I know people struggle with that kind of thing, and it's just really how I have built my own kind of formula to help me in drawing them at different angles. Okay, so in this video, the first thing we're going to do is have a look at some common formulas that people have for drawing faces and plotting them out. Then we're going to have a look at some of the issues with them and figure out if we can come up with a different style that kind of merges them together and gives us a bit of the best of both of them. Then once we've come up with that, I'm going to explain the specific shapes that I use in it and how to use it with measurements. Then we're going to apply it to chubby people as well, so that we're not just looking at skinny people with really defined jawlines. Then I'm going to go over how I use visual notes for this kind of technique and how I also use that as a stylistic choice occasionally. And then lastly, we're going to go and draw a whole bunch of examples of these, and I'll show you some of my other sketches of characters that you can see. So we've got a couple of different styles on the go. So anyway, this is just a little compilation of stuff that I've done this year that I am going to come back to once we start drawing and explaining it a little bit, so that I can point out some of the other little, I guess, maybe stylistic things that I do to help me with this as well. So let's get going. Okay, so there's a couple of different techniques that I see most commonly that people use to go and like block out a face to draw it at a different angle or something. And the first one is to draw a circle to block out where the cranium is, and then you go and put your crosshairs on to mark out like where the eyes and everything are, and then you can bring it down with like a big ellipse for the rest of the face. Or you can draw a box like this and put your face inside of it. And with that, you also like go and put your crosshairs on, and you know it fits onto where the box is. Like you put like nose and mouth. Let's do those on these as well. And these are kind of two sides of the same thing. So you've got the more organic, like curved shapes, but you've also got this like more stable block shape. But if I just go and put like some faces on these to fill them out, so let's put eyes on these and a nose and a mouth. And when I'm drawing stuff like this, I usually, if I'm just kind of sketching and trying to figure it out, then I will just go and put circles in for where the eyes and things are, just to block out where they are and stop me from noodling too much. Okay, so let's get a face in that one and block out like where the ears and everything are on that. And that's two fine ways of going and drawing like a head and a face and everything, but they've both got like little drawbacks in that this one isn't probably going to be as accurate unless you're pretty good at like going and freehanding stuff, because you're obviously just going and like drawing everything in freehand with more curvy shapes. But this one also, because it's like in a block, you might end up with it looking a little bit more blocky and kind of stiff. So we want something that's kind of nice and rounded like the face, but we also want something that's got a lot of structure to it. Well, there's something I want to point out first. Now, when I see people drawing, I guess it's like especially with this one, where you're drawing a circle and you're bringing the chin down like this as an ellipse, people get far too used to just being able to draw like a face at the 3/4 angle like this, and like they bring the chin down and you've got the side of the jaw like this. That'd be like at that kind of angle. But when people decide, oh, I want to do a face that's more at, say, this angle, looking upwards, and we're going to be able to see like some underside of the chin, because they don't really know how to draw that underside of the chin, they go and draw the side of the face as though it's at like a 3/4 angle, and they end up bringing it all the way down into a big shovel chin. And then they end up like squashing all of the features up the top here. And instead of actually putting the perspective in properly, we just end up with a huge shovel chin, so that they don't have to go and draw the underside of it like this. So we just end up like with a kind of mutated jaw and a neck stuck in like this. And the most egregious example of this that I have seen is in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I've gone and found a little screen cap of this, and if I just go and draw over the top of this dude's face here, now you're gonna have to excuse me because I do not know his name. I'm sorry, I know that's Yugi, but I don't know this guy's name. They're obviously going for this kind of angle, because if I draw in the two edge lines of the mouth, then they're going this way. And that means that the eyes should kind of be going that way too, even though they're more at this angle. And because they are going for that angle, it should show more of the underside of the chin. But if I go and trace it and pull this line down, you can see that the chin just kind of goes all the way down into one of those shovel chins, like I mentioned, and there's barely an indication of where the other side of the jawline here is, and it does not jive at all with this angle that the face is supposed to be at. Now, if I go and draw it in where it kind of makes sense for the jawline to be, you can see already that that kind of jives a little bit better with it and makes a little bit more sense for the angles that I've gone and drawn in. His eyes would also be tweaked because they're kind of at like this kind of wonk at the moment. So we'd have one like a bit further up here and one like further down that way. And his nose would probably still be in the same place, and then kind of more like that. I mean, I'm guessing that he's got a huge chin anyway. This is also kind of obvious on Yugi because we can kind of see that we've got like a bit of the underside of his nose. And his face is like slightly kind of going this way, even though he's snarling a little bit. But if I just go and like give him a chin underneath, you can kind of see that that makes more sense already than the big shovel that he had anyway. So this is something that in this technique that I'm making, I really want to be able to help you guys with, because it is really something that I think stops people from wanting to draw faces at different angles because they really don't understand how to draw the underside of the chin. Okay, so the criteria that we want is something organic and round, but also structure, and to be able to draw perspective on it if we're going to be drawing it at different angles, and along with that, we want to be able to draw underside of the chin. Now I've got awful handwriting, you know, artists and doctors, bad handwriting. Okay, so the way I like to go about this, I will usually start with a circle. So we've got that nice round shape for the top of the head. I can also pull it out like a little bit more if I want. I usually do that later once I figure out what kind of angle I want. So let's go with one of those awkward angles where they are looking up and we're going to be able to see the underside of the chin, like this kind of angle. And I'm going to put my eyeballs in, just kind of placement for them, so that it looks like we've got some and it starts to look like a face. The nose is going to be a bit higher up and starting to like overlap with where the eyes are. People usually go and draw in the side of the face because now that we've got those features in, we can kind of understand where the cheekbone's going to go and how that's going to come down like this. And this is when we get into the danger zone of people wanting to just shovel chin. But a way we can avoid that is to look at this curve at the top. If I can separate this curve into its own thing like this, I can bring it down the side like this. And if I can like separate that curve at the top, then I can also separate one around the chin. And if we imagine it as like a sheet of paper that's curving around, we can bring it up and around like this and join it up at the side. And you can see that by me pulling it around at the side, we've also kind of given ourselves a little bit of a box. So we've got all these nice curves that we like. We've got this to define where the chin is, but we've also got this solid structure to put the face on. And I mean, I can go and like line up the chin there and figure out where that is by pulling those bits in. We can line up the mouth with those bits. And I think I've pulled that a little bit far over to the side because I like to line that up with the center of the head from the side so that I can, when I put eyebrows on, pull it down, pull where the nose is down, and we can figure out where our ears go. And another thing with this is that because it's this curved shape like this, I don't just have to draw that side in, I can understand the other side of it. And I think that goes a long way in helping people understand how to draw something in 3D, because I don't just understand what's going on here. I can pull this like all the way around at the top of the head and pull it down to the bottom of the jaw there. So we don't just have the one side of it, we've got both, even what's behind it. And we can draw a line and line those two edges of it up and these two edges here of it up. And again, that's going to help us understand the kind of perspective that we've got going on by being able to draw in those angles. And like after I've done this, I can go and clean the side of the jaw up and make it a little bit rounder because it's kind of big and blocky right now. They don't tend to go out that far. I can do it on the other side like this, and then I can go and pull it down like this and give them a neck. And then we've got a little bit the neck there. And I can shade in this bit on the underside and give enough room for tendons in the neck to come down that way, like that. Oh, and like I mentioned before, let's bring the back of the head further out. Something I tend to do once I know what kind of angle I'm doing the face at on the circle that I've put in the first step. And then, I mean, once you've got that, you can go and tidy it up and tweak any of the little angles, but that just gives me a really, really solid base to use. Something that I do want to clarify before I go and do more stuff is that the top of this kind of curve is going to be more rounded like this. But the bottom of it, if I bring it down, it's going to want to come more into a triangle shape, just because that's the kind of shape that we get with a chin. They're not the same kind of curve as on the top of the head. Let's do one at this kind of angle too. So we're going to have that bigger curve at the top of the head. We can bring it down this way and we can get more of a triangle around the chin like that. And we can join it up at the side. And I mean, you can do that first as well. And then you can go and put your lines on, and you can even like pull them round onto the other side like this. Oop. Another thing that I want to mention is the placement for the side of it. What I try and keep it to is, say that's the cranium for the head, and we've got the face coming down this way. I like to try and keep it about halfway into the head, because that also gives us the placement for where the ear is, in terms of like front to back. And then like once you go and like put your eyebrows in, and you can put your nose in like by here, and then that's gonna help you like line up the ear. But it'll give you the placement down the side of the face as to where the ear is. It also kind of helps if you're drawing it from this kind of angle as well, like you can pull it back like this and down. And it can help to be like, oh, this is where the hairline goes. And then I can pull the hairline down that way and around the cheekbones like that. So it's also a way to measure certain aspects of the face. So that's not just giving me a good base to draw on or some help with the perspective. It's also giving me measurements for where the ear's going to go in terms of how far back it goes on the head and where I'm going to be putting my hairline in. Now, this technique, I think this is actually something I've seen someone else do, but I think I saw it like a long time ago, and then just from me like studying on my own, I kind of came up with it, and then after a while I was like, hang on, I think I've seen this before. So it's kind of a case of just through study, reinventing concepts and ideas and little formulas that already exist. And this is why studying is good, because it gives you a chance to go and come up with all these different little formulas for yourself. I mean, we can also like go and draw the underside of like the chin here, because we get like a little bit of flab underneath the chin. I'm also going to cover as well drawing it on more chubby people, because I think that's something else that people tend to ignore. Okay, so if we're just using this basic shape again, I can make myself a circle, and then I can do myself a curve or a crosshair, and we can put the features on it. Then I'm going to go and draw a more chubby character like this. And I can bring it down. Let's give them a hairline like this and bring it down to the side of the face. And let's give them a chin by here. So you're going to get a slight little indent. Like there's a lot of kind of puppy fat around the cheeks and everything. You get like jowls on some people, especially older people, but you're going to get like a little bit of an indent around there. And then you're going to get all this kind of saggy fat that's underneath. And if you're not really sure how to define that without a big shape like this to define the jaw, then you can just define where the chin is like this. And that's going to show like where there's a little bit of fat kind of hanging over from the chin. And you also get to define this round bit underneath. I mean, with some people, it just kind of gets like blobby like this, especially if they're wearing tight clothing, it'll bunch up like that. Like around the top of a shirt or something. And you can like go and erase this. And you can tell pretty much just from that shape of the chin where the jawline's going, even though it's just kind of obscured by a lot of the fat. And this is why I wanted to bring my little examples up, because, for example, I've done it on this character here. Like, we can tell that a jawbone's going around here. Tell that it's going around this way, just from the shape of the shadow underneath, and because I've got this chin here, where her chin is. And I've just defined that with a little line, and then she's still got that bit of weight underneath her chin where there's quite a lot of fat around there. So this can be applied not just to skinny people that have got like really or people that do have really defined jawlines like these two, but you can also do it with people that have got a lot more fat. It's just a case of understanding where to put that fat and where you can indicate where there is a little bit less and maybe there's a bit more solid bone kind of showing through. Another little thing that I wanted to mention that can be quite helpful, and also as a stylistic thing, is like if I draw the chin like this, and I've got my chin shape and then the neck coming down, what I like to do is just block it in as a big black shape like this. Especially if I'm sketching, because it's kind of easy to block it in then, because it can get a little bit distracting if you just go and draw like a chin like this and then you have a big jawline like this. And it's something that you can like go and erase later, but it's a really useful visual note. And you can see that I use it on these two where she's got like a little bit of chin underneath there, a little bit of weight on it, a bit of fat that comes down. And I've done it on this one underneath to show like where the shadow is down there, because the skin around her jaw is a lot tighter. It kind of looked like beards when I drew that on them. I guess she's Amish now. I've got another example up here where I have maybe put that in when I was doing the sketching, like I'd blocked it in like this just to define where that jaw was, but once I've gone and cleaned it up, I've just indicated it kind of with the lighting that's coming from the bottom. You can still vaguely see that there's a bit of the jawline there that I've done on the line art layer, but you can totally see in these things that I've drawn how I've used those kind of shapes. Boop, boop, in putting this stuff together like that. And of course, angles that are facing upwards are kind of more difficult because you've got the chin. But you can also do it with these like down facing angles, because like I said, you can go and put the hairline in like this, and then that gives you the kind of angle going this way down like that, to go and draw a face in like that kind of angle, which is why I've also got that curve not just at the bottom but at the top as well, because it's going to help you regardless of what angle you're drawing. And I mean, then you can like go and draw disgusting stuff like this. Okay, so I've got another little sheet of just a few examples of scribbles that I've done anyway, and you can kind of see on these that I've got the same kind of structure like underneath when I'm trying to draw them at different angles. So you can see I've got like midline there, and I've got these two curves at the top and the bottom, and then all I've had to do is go and draw the face on. So let's go and do some that are a little bit more simple and just quick to do at some different angles like these. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go and do some more, and we're just going to go and draw in a bunch of these bases. So I'm going to give myself like one curve and one for the chin. So I'm just going to go and draw a sheet of a few of these at different angles, and then I'm going to go and clean them up. Now with these, you can also just draw them as a sheet of paper like this. As long as you can figure out where to put those curves, and then you've just got to join them up. You don't always have to draw the circle, but if it does help you, then maybe draw the circle first and then fit the shape around it. But if you're kind of used to that curve that you get around the top, it's pretty easy to imagine like where the circle is in that and then draw that in. But we can always go and add the cranium in like this later, and we want to remember, if we're going to do that, to bring it up a little bit, because obviously we want this line around here to be defining where the hairline is, and that is going to be a little bit lower than the top of the head because the hair comes slightly further down from where the curve of the top of the head is. So we've got a little bit of a gap. So anyway, yeah, we've got a little bit of a sheet of these now, so I'm only going to go and do these really simply to block out where the features are. And I want to say that you do have to like understand a little bit of anatomy and how to draw these features at different angles to be able to do this, but it's a lot easier when you've got all of this blocked out already to be able to go and put them on. There are also some things like little shortcuts that you can use, like where you can see that I've joined up where the corner of the eye is and brought that down into where the chin is. And there's actually quite a lot of those you can pick up on if you start to like go and study faces, or I think I've got some other videos where I talk about that kind of thing. I know I've got ones on drawing male and female faces. I'll put a link to those at the end. But yeah, you can start to see with these how they are adhering to this form that I've already put down, and it's helping me a lot to go and put things on. Something else that I want to mention is when you're drawing faces at a really extreme angle, then you're going to get quite a lot of foreshortening in terms of just the flat front of the face, and you're going to get things like the nose overlapping with where the eyes are, and you need to be not scared to do that, which is another reason why I like to go and put in these circles first, because I'm not committing to drawing anything and then having to go and erase it to put something else in front of it. I'm just making sure that I've got the right placement first before I need to go and put any details in. So I'm not getting too invested in drawing something that's going to be covered up later. With these two, I'm trying to make sure that I've got a little bit of a range of different face shapes for you guys so that I can show you all different shapes on them. And like I mentioned before, I'm putting that big bit of shadow on the underside of the chin to block that shape in the face out, but I'm also doing it partially on the lips just so we can separate them out a little bit easier. And that's another one of the little visual notes that I like to use occasionally. And I know that all my previous examples have been quite cartoony, the ones I've showed you, but I wanted to do these a little bit more towards realistic proportions and kind of shapes so that you get to see it in a couple of different styles. Okay, so there we go. We've gone and cleaned those up a little bit and put all the features on, and if I flip them off and then back on, you should kind of be able to see how they adhere to these little bases that I've drawn. Now, I did have to go and clean them up a little bit because some of the bases were like slightly off, but it gave me a really good idea of where the faces were going to go. And like I've mentioned, you kind of need to like understand a lot of anatomy stuff, but this is a really easy way to go and have something to apply those onto instead of trying to go and freehand everything. And you can see on the top of these, I've also been able to go and put this really blocky shape to define crosshairs on the top of the head as well. So I think we've filled that criteria of being able to have this more organic shape of the curves on the top and the bottom, but also this ability to block it off as though it is a box. I've tried to differ the face shapes on these as well, so it's not just like one kind of face. So I did someone that was a little bit more jowly around here. There's like a little bit more of the underside of the chin where we can see that little bit coming out on the neck there. I've also tried to kind of indicate that on these two as well, so it's like a little bit softer around here. And I do just want to reaffirm again the importance of like going and studying, because this isn't from me just like messing about. I've got like a whole ton of like studies from photographs that I don't really post. I know you guys know that I've got one of those big 600-page sketchbooks, and I've pretty much filled that thing with just studies from photo references. So this isn't just a case of me going and pulling all this stuff out of my butt. This is from a lot of study and trying to figure out all the anatomy and shapes for myself, and then from that kind of coming up with this little concept that helps to put them all in place and get them at awkward angles. Yeah, thanks for watching, lads. I hope this helped. If it did, give us a like, share if you think it'll help someone else, and subscribe for new videos on Fridays and like occasionally Saturdays too, because why not? There's a link down in the description to the Discord group, as well as a link to my commission information and places that I have prints of things that I've already drawn. I'll also post a few links to some other videos. I have a playlist of other drawing tutorials and some speed draws of the other pieces that I had in this video. Yeah, I hope this helped. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. So, do you guys think I've improved from the last one? I think I might have, lads.